Welcome to the channel. In this series, we will be talking about the art of conlanging, starting with the basics and then going into the finer details. Now, for the basis of the series. What is a conlang? The word conlang is short for a constructed language. In other words, a conlang is when an individual or group of people decide to create a handmade, realistic language. These people are called conlangers. When creating a conlang, there are arguably 8 steps that one must take. Finding the goals of your conlang, selecting the sounds, making the syllable structure for your language and its groupings, creating a lexicon, creating a grammar system, designing an alphabet, modifying it for handwriting, and finally practicing and translating writing text in your language. Each one of these steps is crucial to the creation of your conlang, and with one of them missing, your conlang may be incomplete. Before you begin building any conlang, one important step in the process is to realize what type of conlang you're making, and therefore the goals that your conlang will have. These goals will allow you to have some fun with your conlang, while still staying on course with the focus of your language. For instance, some conlangs are built to help people communicate. Many conlangs are built to be realistic languages, often for fantasy worlds, and yet many others may simply be for personal reasons, such as simply finding a way to spend your free time. Furthermore, you may want to set a goal for how you want your language to sound, to give a mood or feel to the speakers of your language. The next step in the conlanging process is selecting the sounds that your language will use. Now this is a whole big topic, and I will be likely doing many videos on this, but today we'll be going over the basics. So to start, in English we use the English alphabet to find the sounds that a word will be using. But in reality, certain letters can be pronounced in different ways, and that is actually a different sound. For example, in the words cart and sell, the letter C is used in different ways, and so there are 2 different sounds for that. Likewise, in the words crash and kale, both C and K make the same sound, k, and so that is actually the same sound. The IPA, the International Phonetic Alphabet, is a collection of all the sounds, including both vowels and consonants, that humans can produce. The second step in making your conlang is that you will choose the basic sounds of your language from the IPA, and remember, less is more. When choosing your sounds, try to keep your palette as small as possible, within reason. Once you have your sounds chosen, you must decide upon the groupings of the syllables in your language and how the sounds interact with each other, called phonotactics. Phonotactics are the restrictions you set for the possible sound sequences and syllable structures in your language. First of all, the syllable structure of your language is most essential to giving your language a character. To start, words are made up of syllables, and syllables are made up of 3 optional but distinct parts. These are the onset, the nucleus, and the coda. For the most part, consonants will only be used in the onset and the coda, and vowels only in the nucleus. A huge part of the phonotactics of your language is the number of letters that you decide to put in the onset and coda. For example, English allows for up to 3 consonants to cluster in the onset and 5 consonants in the coda. We conlangers write this out using C's and V's, C's being consonants and V's being the nucleus. Therefore, English is a CCC-V CCC-CC language. So the third step in making your conlang is deciding upon the structure of your syllables, being the number of consonants found in either the onset or the coda. Keep in mind that very large syllable structures may be hard to pronounce, and very small syllable structures may feel too restrictive, but feel free to choose whatever floats your boat. Before creating a lexicon of all your language's words, one very important step in the subject of phonotactics is setting up rules for how and where your consonants can group. First of all, it is important to choose which sounds can go where. For example, you may want to use all the consonants but pa, ha, and hua in the coda, and all of them in the onset. Now when it comes to the nucleus, most of the time you only want vowels and diphthongs. However, occasionally you might find a consonant in the nucleus, but keep it minimal, if at all. Anyway, the final step before creating conlang is deciding how the consonants will cluster. We will go over this in greater detail in a later video, but basically, phonological constraints on clustering are designed to put constraints on how the consonants may cluster. For example, one common constraint that people may use is that the glottal stop can only be placed in between vowels. Furthermore, another common type of phonological constraint is choosing specific consonants that you don't want to cluster, such as the glottal stop and some types of approximants. Finally, one very common type of phonological constraint is using the sonority hierarchy in obstruents versus sonorants, all words that you probably don't understand and that I will explain in another video. A lexicon is the words that your language uses, which it is your job to create. There are generally four main classes of words in human language: nouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. To make these words, there are two different but similar techniques: derivation and compounding. In derivation, you come up with a root word, such as water, and then derive many other words from it, such as made-up words otter, turwa, and watwat. Similarly, in compounding, you take multiple words, such as big and rock, and derive one or more words from them, such as brock or bogok. Don't worry, these are terrible examples. But remember, try not to copy English exactly. Instead, find different meanings for a single English word and split them into separate words. Similarly, you may combine meanings of these words into a single word in your language, and using these techniques, you should be able to build a realistic, believable lexicon for your language to use. Grammar is a very large topic, covering many areas of study. It is the overall structure of a language, including word order, how many different words can be changed by different instances. It describes how nouns, verbs, and most especially adjectives can be used to form sentences. Each of these topics we will spend a video on, beginning with inflection and all that comes afterward. Okay, so I'm going to combine these last two steps into one here, but when creating an alphabet, there are a few things that you must think about. Number one, what type of writing system do you want your language to have? The 7 main ones are abjad, alphabet, abugida, syllabary, logography, ideography, and featural, but feel free to combine more than one of these, add other features, and so much more. Second, what medium do you want the speakers of your language to use when writing? This includes both the writing tools and the thing that they write on. Whatever you pick will affect how the look of the writing will be. Third, set a group of rules on how certain things should be written, such as how English sometimes writes EL as LE, as well as the direction of how the words and sentences are written. In addition, you may decide if you want any forms of capitalization, punctuation, and other such things. Finally, you may design the characters, punctuation, and whatever else you decided upon, and your writing system will be complete. I hope you enjoy this overview of how to design and make a conlang. Please keep in mind that this is only an overview, and much of it may be oversimplified. In addition, you do not need to do it in this exact order, and much of it is really quite optional. As for later videos, I will be uploading a video monthly on the series, each time going into a different or new aspect of conlanging. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.